So Metadata Studio is easy to use as an end user. You can just select prompts and run them. But you can also use Metadata Studio to build your own prompts. So let's take a look at it from the perspective of a prompt engineer. Now the first thing to be aware of is this menu over here shows you the example prompts. Those are the prompts that come with Metadata Studio. But it can also show you my prompts, the prompts that you've written, or the active prompts, the prompts that have been written by everyone on your team. One of the things you can do is you can select any prompt that you're interested in, and you can import it and export it. Now, if you export it, it will just save this as an XML file. You can email that to someone, and they can turn around and import that prompt and bring it right back into the environment here. The other thing is all of the prompts that you built are saved with your Salesforce account so that the other people on your team using Snapshot will have access to those prompts and be able to use them. As a matter of fact, they're just an object, a custom object in your Salesforce account that stores the XML, and you can migrate those or move those or back them up or do whatever you need to do with them. All right, now another thing you can do is you can duplicate a prompt. Now this is really useful if you find, for example, one of the example prompts that you like. You can select that and you can choose duplicate, and now you can fill in a new title, save your changes, and now you see you're back in the active prompt, and now you can make all kinds of changes to this and do whatever you want it to do. Lastly, of course, you can create your own prompts, and that's also really easy to do. You can create the prompt, click OK, and here you are ready to go. So once you have the prompt ready, the next step is really to go into the studio, and we're going to talk about that next. Now the first thing to realize is that your prompts have a structure. The prompt is made up of messages, and the messages are made up of content. And so just by clicking on a message, you can see the buttons over here at right will let you manage it, duplicate it, delete it, all kinds of things you might want to do. And if you click inside of that into the content, then it's the same deal. The buttons over here at right let you create new content, manage content, duplicate it, so on and so forth. So it's important to realize that your prompt is at first going to have a system message with content, and then a user message with content, and then during a discussion or during prompt design, you might have your intelligent assistant provide an answer that will also have content, and so on and so forth. And you see the newly created messages have a little close box here. We can delete them very easily. Messages without a close box are more permanent parts of the prompt, and you can edit that right here. If you select the message, here's your close box right there. All right, now a very basic thing you can do is to select your content and bring up all of your content buttons over here, and then you can move your content around into different locations, and you can manage the content. There's 4 basic types of content: text or data, metadata assets, or data records, and you can select all of those here. Another very useful option is the require update button. What this means is when the end user runs this prompt, require them to update, in this case, a data record. So let's look at a more sophisticated example. So here we have our system message, and then we have an example question with some example data, and then we have an example answer. We want to have a text field and data, and a text field and data for every field that we select. And then here's the real question, and as you can see, that includes best practices, and here we have the required update field, and you see this little blue circle over here. That means when this prompt is run, the end user will be required to update this custom field. So let's look at some of these things. So first, this content right here is simply a text field, and here's the text. The custom field is a metadata asset of type field. And then the example answer shows other custom fields that are also metadata assets. Lastly, when we get to the real question, this custom field here, you'll see has the required update button toggled. And what that means is you'll get this little blue exclamation mark that means this is required, and when this thing is run, it'll ask the end user to fill out this field. So 2 things to notice here. First of all, this prompt, pretty sophisticated. It has few-shot learning with an example question and an example answer. That trains the language model into the format of the question we want to see. And then we have the real question and the real field that's selected, which is a required field. So let's run this prompt. And it requires me to select some fields. And we see our intelligent assistant gives us an answer with detailed information that includes the same pattern that we specified in our few-shot learning, which is that we want a description and then data, a description and data for each one of the fields. And then any one of the fields can also be validated. And to do that, you just click Validate Assets, and you can do a test deployment, then a real deployment. And if you have any errors, it'll give you an error message, and the error message comes back, in this case, as a green user statement. But notice as we conduct this conversation, all of the new things in conversation that happen have this close box, and so we can also close those items. So this is an important point, that you have to have system, user, assistant, user, and that's the pattern that you'll be able to talk to your intelligent assistant with. All right, that's some information about running Prompt Studio and building your own prompts.